New laws are on the books which might stop law-abiding boaters from anchoring in Florida altogether. Florida has always been a little bit spicy for cruisers, from their weird enforcement of rules for dinghies like nav lights and registration numbers and safety gear for anyone even idling across the ICW to a local restaurant, to Florida's restrictive anchoring rules for boats just passing through. But now they're kicking it up a notch, and it's going to impact us, the cruisers. I've had some chats with Wally from Sail to the Sun, who is a very big voice in fighting and speaking up against these new laws. But a quick history lesson. In the past, local governments across Florida enacted wildly inconsistent and often extreme anchoring restrictions. Some cities banned anchoring outright, while others simply imposed arbitrary time limits, requiring boaters to move every 24 to 48 hours. Weird stuff, and the result, a legal and navigational nightmare for boaters trying to navigate from one stop to the next. Because of that inconsistency, the federal laws took over, giving all of Florida one set of rules. But the new bills that are coming out now aim to turn back time and allow local governments to set the rules again. Also, Senate Bill 594 would impose a 5,000-foot no anchoring zone around seaports, including the Port of Miami, Everglades, Canaveral, Tampa Bay, Jacksonville, Palm Beach, and many more. The broad restriction may violate federal law, which generally allows anchoring unless specifically prohibited by the Coast Guard or other maritime authorities. Furthermore, SB 594 provides no justification for these restrictions. In another bill, the proposed SB 164 introduces a new long-term anchoring permit for vessels anchored 14 days or more within a 30-day period. While intended to address derelict boats, the rule may create unintended challenges for responsible boaters waiting for a mooring ball or a safe weather window to travel offshore. Many popular harbors in Florida have long wait lists for mooring balls, often exceeding 2 weeks. Additionally, offshore travel requires careful weather planning, and forcing boats to move before conditions improve could pose some safety risks. Under the new rule, boaters in these situations would technically be in violation even if they're actively preparing for a safe departure, probably to the Bahamas. While managing derelict vessels is definitely important, some in the boating community worry that this provision does not account for the practical realities of cruising and safe seamanship. Clarifications or exemptions for temporary delays could help ensure that well-maintained transient boats are not unintentionally penalized under the new regulations. So while derelict boats seem to be the reason for this push, that's not really the whole story. A big driving force behind them is pressure from waterfront home and condo owners who don't want people and boats anchored in their view or in their backyard. Homeowners in areas like Miami Beach or Fort Lauderdale and Naples have long pushed for restrictions that would remove anchored boats near their properties. The problem is they don't own the water. Florida's waterways are a public resource, and anchoring is a legal right under state and federal law. Many of these homeowners cite derelict boats and pollution as their main concern, but Florida already has laws to deal with abandoned vessels and environmental violations. Instead of enforcing these existing laws, these new bills take the easier route, eliminating boaters' rights for everybody, regardless of whether they're breaking the law or not. Florida's economy is deeply tied to boating as well, with an industry worth over $23 billion annually. These bills would have a devastating consequence on those industries. Marinas, boatyards, and waterfront businesses would lose customers. Many transient boaters stop and anchor before refueling, stocking up, or dining at waterfront restaurants. If anchoring is severely restricted, boaters will simply start to avoid Florida altogether. The Bahamas and Georgia and South Carolina would benefit from those boaters instead. Many cruisers heading south for the winter rely on Florida anchorages. If they no longer have places to stop, they may bypass Florida entirely, opting to go offshore instead. Local businesses in places like Boot Key Harbor, St. Augustine, or the Keys, and everywhere else will see a decline in business. Fewer boaters anchoring means fewer dollars spent in these communities. Florida's marine economy thrives because boaters can navigate freely. Restricting anchoring will drive away tourism, reduce spending, and hurt businesses that profit from the business of transient cruisers. Some say there is a better way. There are ways to address derelict boats without punishing responsible boaters. And they say Florida should focus on stronger enforcement of existing laws. The state already has laws allowing removal of abandoned and unsafe vessels, as noted above. Proper enforcement would solve the problem without creating unnecessary restrictions for everyone. Zoned management approaches. Instead of blanket bans, Florida could implement managed anchorages, ensuring boats are spaced properly apart and monitored. Reasonable limits, not overreach. Instead of extreme rules, Florida could implement reasonable, enforceable anchoring regulations that reflect the real needs of cruising boats. These solutions would protect boaters while addressing the real concerns without unnecessary overregulation. Now, SB 164, it passed. The chamber voted 37-0 for 164, which would increase penalties for violations of the state's derelict vessel laws. It'll create free long-term anchoring permit program for boat owners who want to affix their vessel within 1 nautical mile of an anchorage point for 14 days or more within a 30-day period. SB 594 was indefinitely postponed, so basically that bill didn't pass. The bill was authorizing the governing bodies of certain seaports to apply to the Fish and Wildlife Conservation to prohibit anchoring or mooring within specified boundary limits for specified purposes. That's the 5,000-foot no anchoring rule. The message is clear, though, in Florida. Derelict boats are a problem. Land and homeowners also don't want anyone anchoring in their backyard. And there's a big fight over this whole subject. As cruisers, even those of us who don't live in Florida, this will impact us. Wally asks that if you care about this, you can call your state representatives, let them know that you oppose these kind of bills. Email your legislators. A personal message makes a big difference. Sign petitions and join advocacy groups, organizations that you know of like Boat US, CRNNA, SSCA, MTOA, and AGLCA, that's the Great Loopers. They're all fighting bills like this. Spread the word too. Share information with your boating community. I personally hope we're always allowed to anchor in Florida because that's how we make safe passage to the Bahamas and onto the Caribbean. If it were no longer practical to hop from Miami to Bimini, I'm forced to go offshore, maybe from the Carolinas, because I don't want to anchor in Georgia. But the Carolinas to the Bahamas is a more proper ocean passage, changing the whole paradigm that makes cruising the East Coast and the Caribbean so bloody easy in the first place. If they can take away Florida, it really does change the game for us. The mission here at Lady K Sailing has always been to get more people sailing more easily, and I sure couldn't make these videos without you guys. A big shout out to the patrons who make it all possible. Thank you so very much. If you'd like to help support that mission, please consider becoming a patron. Until next time, friends, keep the heavy side down, but not too far down. We'll see ya.